Welcome back to SheCan, where women lead by example, by telling their stories, sharing their insights and experiences to guide and support others, because it's easier to be what you can see. And I'm really excited to talk to Grace Wheeler today. Grace, welcome to SheCan. You're the founder and CEO of Compozure, which is a luxury consumer services startup. You're based in New York City. You're an experienced entrepreneur with a demonstrated history of startup business development. You're an entrepreneurial strategist with a passion for helping the startup world build and grow. Compozure is a consumer services startup that offers meal prep and calendar management, wardrobe styling, interior design, anything that people might need. It's a one-stop shop for all your needs. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey of starting Compozure and where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie. So I'm originally from England and I moved to New York 10 years ago for college. And then I actually started my first startup in college that was a women's workwear marketplace selling work clothes. That grew over the next 4 years after I left college. And then unfortunately COVID hit and it failed. The business failed. People weren't going into the offices. They didn't need formal work clothes. But from the success of that business, I learned a lot. Me and my co-founder learned a lot. And I've gone into the startup world in different areas. I consulted for a few years in the investment space, helping corporations buy other startups. And then I wanted to found my own business again. So founded Compozure 2 years ago.
Grace, so tell us a little bit where you're at now. Tell us about your business model. How does it work? How do people interact with you? Tell us a little bit about this journey of being an entrepreneur again, 2 years in, where you are at now.
Yeah, definitely. So Compozure really started from a personal struggle. I mean, that's pretty classical in entrepreneurship, I feel. I was leading a busy New York life and didn't want to prioritize or manage the essentials of my week, whether that was cooking, laundry, cleaning, wardrobe styling. And so the idea of Compozure really came out of that, to help busy, career-minded people manage the essentials of their weeks through vetted experts.
Yeah.
So we're in our early stages. As I said, we've been going for 2 years, but really launched a year ago. And what it's growing into and what it is individuals can go on, book an expert that they might need, book a cleaner, book a cook on demand, on subscription, and on subscription so that they can manage the essentials of their week.
Great. So how does it work? It's a technological interface, it's an app, it's a website. How does it work?
At the moment, it's just a website. So we really worked on proving out the business model for the past year, proving demand, working through pivots, changes to the business. And now we're actually in the process, this is the first time I'm actually saying this out loud, we're in the process of building our own app. So in the next 6 months, probably, we will change over to an app and it will be a more technological input to the business.
Amazing. Grace, I remember seeing something about you online where you were looking for a partner that would sort of know about the technological side of things. Tell us a little bit how, I think you have a partner to begin with. You have maybe now recruited this technological partner. Tell us a little bit how you started, how you divide the responsibilities. I know that you're bootstrapping this, you're profitable. Tell us a little bit about that, how you make up a team, how you run the business, and how you keep it going and how you float it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, I think there's no specific formula, particularly with a startup. You just have to be quick and change all the time, and just adapt all the time. So I started as the main founder 2 years ago. And then I was still working in consulting at the time. And there was a person there that I worked with called Katherine, who's now my co-founder,
Yeah.
who was doing excellent things in that consulting business. And she was growing their client base, she was growing their revenue. So I asked her to join Compozure, and she joined as a co-founder in September 23. And she joined as head of growth, really to focus on the marketing aspect, growing clients, building the business, building the revenue. And so that's where the two of us proved out the business model, and we proved out the demand. And that was the main priority in that first year, is really to prove out that there was a business, that we had it right, that we could pivot, change, and make sure that clients needed it.
Yeah.
And then we got to a point, and this is the point we're at now, or we've been at in the past 4 months, where, as I said, we've done the MVP version, we've proven out the business, and now we're ready for the sort of more structured aspect of it, the more formal aspect of it, which to me is building the app. It's building the technology to make it more efficient, make the booking system more efficient, client management more efficient, to then scale into the future.
Yeah.
And we've had a bit of a rocky road with hiring a CTO, which we were going to do. So there's been many different challenges through that. And actually now where we are at is we aren't going to hire a third co-founder. Instead, we're going to bring on a development team and an agency, a third-party agency to do it.
Yeah, okay. Grace, so I know you are bootstrapping this and you're profitable. Tell us a little bit about that journey. How long did it take you to be profitable? How do you organize the sort of back end at this point in time?
We're very frugal. We're pretty cheap in what we spend our money on, is the sort of main line of it. I think what happened is when we first launched the services and when we first went public to clients in New York City, we were really just trying to bring in any clients we possibly could. It didn't really matter. I mean, obviously it mattered the price because we had to cover the labor and we had to cover certain costs of the services.
Yeah.
But at the point we launched, we were less worried about profit and more worried about just bringing in clients and working out the kinks. It didn't have to be the highest quality product, and therefore it didn't have to be the highest price that we were eventually going to sell at. It was more just bringing in revenue.
Yeah.
Then we had a few months of doing it that way, learning a lot. We had many challenges with labor costs. We had different challenges with service costs, and we learned what those were going to look like to the point where we had so many learnings from those first 4 months that we then took our prices, our labor costs, all of our other things, and focused on them being profitable. So really at the start, we were pushing revenue, and then we focused on the quality of that revenue and really driving profit through each of those services. And then once we'd done that and made sure that every service was profitable, producing the margins we wanted it to produce, then we focused again back on driving the revenue and driving the growth. And I mean, I will say with our business and with our model, we're very lucky in terms of we didn't have a huge startup cost. You know, we didn't rely on a huge tech build, or we didn't rely on real estate or huge inventory infrastructure. And so we were lucky in terms of we didn't have to have a huge amount of money to start it at all.
Yeah.
We could just start it with one chef, for example, and one client. And the chef and our experts only get paid at the point that the client pays. So we were lucky in terms of we didn't need that huge raise, or we didn't need external investment. But we are also very frugal. We are very careful with our money.
Yeah. And I bet it works really well by word of mouth.
It does, actually. And to be honest, that's our biggest marketing push, and our most effective conversion rate is actually referrals. We have a lot of referral partnerships with different private chefs in the industry. We have nutritionists that refer us. And now we're working on some corporate referrals, but yes, that's definitely a good one.
I can imagine. So, Grace, what do you feel are your main learnings so far, 2 years in? What would you say are your sort of biggest takeaways in on your entrepreneurial journey?
That's a very good question. I think the first one is you'll never be able to know everything,
Mhm.
and you'll never be able to predict everything or build everything to the right standard. It's never enough, and I don't mean that negatively. I mean, as long as you're adaptable and you keep listening and you keep listening to the right things, you continue to improve. Those learnings, those problems that happen along the way, as long as you keep adapting to them and you never give up and you keep persisting, it works. Entrepreneurship, startups, building a business is all about problem solving. And you'll never be able to predict those problems or those challenges, but as long as you keep going, it ultimately makes your business better and better and better. So I think that's one of them. I think the second thing is, for a people business like ours, we rely a lot on people, and therefore we have to listen to people, we have to adapt to people, we have to know when something isn't the right fit or something is the right fit, and it's just maybe worth investment of changes over time. And I know this isn't the same with every business, but particularly for our business, people are really important. And so the people you have on your team, the experts you bring on, they make the culture, they make the company. As much as you can sit there and try and make it what you want, they also make the company. So investing in people is really important, investing in the right people. I'm trying to think of the third one. And then a third one I think is, and I don't think people go into startups for this reason, but you want to find a business or a thing that you're truly passionate about, that sort of speaks a lot to your personality as a founder or as a co-founding team. Because as much as you might think, I don't know, there's an opportunity in this market, this idea is a really good idea, if you're not passionate about it and you're not really, really involved in it and it doesn't fit your personality, to be honest, I don't think it's going to work quite to the same ability as you being super passionate and super, yeah, having a really good relationship with the business you actually build is really important.
Yeah. I hear this all the time. You need to live and breathe your vision and
Yeah,
be so in
definitely.
love with it that the problem solving becomes just a thing to do and doesn't crush you.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Grace, so what do you feel matters to you most? You have a really good business. You said earlier you invest in the right people. You're a people's business, so you have to listen, you have to support the people, you have to know them well. It's all about connection and collaboration, I'm sure. So what do you feel matters to you most now that you're getting into the next phase and growing?
I think next thing is surrounding ourselves with good advisors and people, mentors almost, because I think, Katherine and I have grown the business to a point and to our knowledge and to our skills. And now as we move into this scaling section and moving forward and growing the business, there are challenges I know that we're going to come across that neither of us have ever dealt with before. I mean, of course, we've gone through some things that over the past year that I've never dealt with personally or professionally, but I know it's going to keep going and it's going to get more and more and more. I've built other startups. I've built other startups from the ground up, really pre-seed and seed, and then I've also been on the exit side of seeing startups bought by corporations, but I don't have the best knowledge or experience in the middle ground of
Mm,
really scaling a startup.
mm.
So I think for us, it's really important for us to surround ourselves with mentors and advisors that can help us through that stage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's very intelligent. So what will success look like for you, Grace? What in a couple of years' time?
That's a good question, Stephanie, because a lot of people ask me this and I hesitate sometimes because I'm not entirely sure. At the moment, we're just enjoying building it and growing it as it is. I think, I'm not looking for a fast exit. I'm not looking to get out in the next 5 years necessarily, or 3 years. I think eventually it would be nice to sell the company on as an acquisition target or to a PE firm or something like that. But for now, yes, I think we're just enjoying growing the business. And honestly, my personality is I love working for myself. And that's the best joy of this, is being able to wake up every day. And while it's a huge responsibility, it's really refreshing to be independent and flexible and answering to a company as opposed to answering to a person as a boss. So that's what I'm enjoying the most about it at the moment.
And how do you feel you lead, Grace? What kind of a leader do you feel you are or want to be?
So when I was in prep school, I remember having a conversation with the headmaster at the time, and we did a leadership course, and we were discussing the leadership course at the middle school, at the prep school, and he sat me down afterwards and he said, "How do you think it went? How do you see, now that you've been through the leadership course?" I mean, I was 11, I was young. Now that you've been through the leadership course, how do you feel? Do you recognize yourself as someone else? Which is quite a big question for an 11-year-old. And it was the first time that I'd really lent into leadership or kind of been a leader. And he said something really interesting to me. He said, "It's really important to lead firm but fair." And I've taken that to heart ever since. I think it was a really good line of just, be empathetic, understand someone, understand where everyone is coming from. Everyone is individuals, be fair in that sense. However, at the end of the day, your business, you have goals, you have things you need to get done, or things that might not align. And in that case, you need to be firm. And ever since, it's rung in my head. And I really try and be that type of leader, that balance. That's where I said earlier, it's important to recognize where the investment is a good thing, investing in the right people. And it's important to recognize where something might not be a fit.
Yeah.
And so I really hope that I try my hardest to balance those two. It's not always easy. I've done many wrong. I will continue to do many wrong. But it was a really good line and it rung in my head.
Yeah. Grace, so I know this might be a weird question, but I always like asking it to entrepreneurs. What would be the one message to your government? I mean, I know you're English, but you live in America. What message would you give the American government to make your life as an entrepreneur easier?
The current government, Stephanie?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh my goodness.
And we don't have to talk about politics, but just what are the things that would make your life easier? I mean, there's a lot of challenges right now. I understand that 100%. And that's not just in America. It's not just a domestic issue.
Definitely. And no, it's a fantastic question. What would I give? I think this is slightly political, but I think collaboration and honestly globalization for a startup and for a business is a good thing, because it's the same with people, you want options, you want people with different opinions, you want countries and places with different priorities and resources and things like that to really make a business or a country the best it can be. And that is slightly political, but that's an individual. I believe that at an individual level. I believe that at a group level, at a friendship level. I believe that at a business level. That if you can be open-minded and adapt to lots of different things, and listen to different opinions, listen to different experiences, gather different resources, you can make it the best it can be. If you're very limited in all those things, I don't believe any entity or any individual even is going to be the best they can be. Yeah. So I think for us as a business, continuing to grow is listening to different people, listening to different opinions, visiting different places, gathering different ideas from different places. So that's really important to us.
Yeah, thank you for that. So what would your top tips be for other young entrepreneurs that have just started or about to start their business? What top tips would you give them?
Never give up. If you really want to do it, don't give up. There are terrible days, to be honest. There are days where you think, oh my goodness, how is this happening? How am I as an individual dealing with this? But every problem is solvable in this type of environment. In a startup, you can pivot, you can fix everything. And it doesn't matter at what stage of growth you are. If you're Amazon, if you're only starting with an idea, it doesn't matter. You always have challenges. You always have to pivot. You always have to be adapting. Just never, ever give up on that. So that's my first thing. My second thing is you don't have all the answers. You really don't. And even if you think that you do, I guarantee you there are different opinions and other people that can give you different perspectives that then grow how you act. And so I think surrounding yourself with the right people at the right stages is super, super important. And you might not get it right. You might hire the wrong people. You might bring on the wrong people. We've certainly done that. That's a learning lesson. That's a good learning lesson. But as long as you keep improving your team and improving the people around you, you'll be fine.
So what do you feel are your challenges sort of in this stage of your startup, Grace?
I think, first of all, while we do have good revenue and we are profitable, we don't have that huge growth injection. We don't have a huge amount of we have no investment, actually. And I think this is a good thing and a bad thing. That comes with its challenges in terms of we can't hire the top people at the moment that are going to cost us 200, 300K a year. We just don't have the money for that. We don't have the money to build out a complete marketing scheme. And so one of our challenges is we have to be really careful with the money and the dollars we put in different places. I think that can be a good thing in terms of we're then super cautious about acting towards the right things. But that's one of our challenges. Our second challenge is, it's a crowded space. Like New York City has a lot of startups. It has a lot of companies. And just continuing to make noise in the right places and to get to our audience and continue to build in that regard, it's tough. And it requires a lot of, even just going on, literally knocking on doors or putting leaflets through doors. But yes, it's tough because we're a small fish in a very, very large pond. But even if we can gather some of that market, it's a big pond. So
yeah, definitely. So on the flip side, what would you say are you most proud of to date?
I think individually, I'm most proud of actually being able to work on my own company and having grown it from the ground up. As I said, without that investment, without any startup funds, actually. We didn't even put personal money into it. So on an individual basis, I think, I wake up every day and can't believe my luck, to be honest. And then I think second of all, with the business, we've grown. The thing I'm most proud of is we've grown hugely in the past year. And as I said, we had no money, we had no investment. We didn't know the clients. We started from zero, and so the fact that we've grown this much over the past year, I'm super grateful for my co-founder on. She's done an amazing job, fantastic job, and we work as a good team. So
yeah, amazing. So what is your ideal client, Grace? So they pay a subscription and then they can organize just anything concierge-wise through you. What is sort of an ideal client for you?
So we recognized at the beginning that celebrities, high net worth individuals, they have access because they have the funds to their own private chef, their own personal assistant, their own personal stylist, just people full time that can really help optimize their lifestyles. And what we wanted to do is bring that level of service to a mid-market level income person. People that are super busy in their career, super focused in their career or their families or just other things in their life, and want to delegate some of those details, essentially, of their weeks. Cooking is an essential. You have to eat. Eating healthy, people want to do more. Dressing well, dressing professionally is an essential. And so our primary audience is really that mid-market level focus. It's individuals as well as single or two household families that the household is working full time. They're focused in their careers, or they have families. And we want to make the essentials of their weeks delegated to experts for them. That doesn't mean that you have to hire full-time private chef with us or a full-time expert, but you can use them instead when you need them. And when it's a really busy week, you can have a bunch of our experts just help you manage all those things rather than having to commit full-time to them.
Yeah. It's genius. Grace, so what about your plans and goals? Do you have sort of a real set in stone strategy? Do you plan 6 monthly, 2 yearly, 3 yearly? What are those plans and goals for you?
So we started off the year, as most individuals and companies do, with 2025 goals. And we have about 3 across different channels of our business. One of them is to get to a certain amount of revenue by the end of the year. Another one is to build out this tech side and really tech enable our business.
Yeah.
And I can't believe I'm forgetting the third one. The third one might be to test out another market other than New York City.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we have our 2025 goals and we sort of have broken down how we're going to get to them. I think on a day-to-day basis, I think subconsciously I have those in my head, or Katherine and I have them in our head. And we just, slowly work towards them throughout the year.
Yeah, with small steps. So, Grace, what takeaways would you like our listeners to have from your story?
I think the takeaway is every business and everyone is different. Just because I've done it a certain way or somebody else has done it a certain way, you don't have to think that that's how to do it. If someone is a super successful entrepreneur or a super successful startup leader and they're doing things a certain way, okay, that might have led to their success, but there are many, many different avenues and many different personalities that lead to success. Lean into who you are, know who you are and what your strengths are, and act in those ways, act to your strengths. I'm a very stubborn person. I'm a very contrary person. I know that about myself. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it hinders, but I think as long as you know yourself and you go after who you are and you build the life around who you are, then do it. Go for it. You don't have to follow what someone else has done.
Yeah. Grace, I'm so grateful for you to tell your story today, to take the time to tell us to keep listening, to adapt, to persist, to problem solve, to invest in the right people, which I think is super important. And if any mentor or even sponsor, because you need more than a mentor, you need someone who's actually interested in helping you upscale, and continue growing personally as well as with your business, then please get in touch and we'll put you in touch. And so thank you so much, Grace, for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephanie. Really enjoyed it.